to start off today's episode by saying that if, and that's a huge if these allegations, if they prove to be true, in my view, my opinion, this is the end of Roland Martin and of all he's built. Why? Because as a man, he will not be able to live this down. He will not be able to live down the shame of whatever comes out. Not only that, if all of this stuff proves to be true, this is going to be fodder in the hands of his enemies. They're going to play back all the clips of him saying stuff about people who engage in these types of activities, black men in particular. It's also going to be fodder because, all of the people he's cursed out and spoken down to and wagged his finger at. Also, for the FBAs, it's going to be just further proof of what they've been saying about Roland Martin since the beginning. I know that's a lot, right? By way of introduction, I'm your host. Thank you for joining all of us. Listen, if you got any questions, just check the description box by clicking the word more on your screen. It will expand. Also, when you're ready to comment, if you would like to take a quick look at the 3-channel guidelines, YouTube will give you that option automatically. All you got to do is click the word view, and those 3 will pop up for you. Click got it, and you're ready to go. Let's jump into this. Let me share with you all what's going on, and then we will continue to talk. A lot of you know that I have covered Roland Martin in the past. A lot of you also know I am not a fan of Roland Martin's. I used to watch Roland, it's been a long time ago. And I started to kind of, my eyes, how they say as you grow as a person, you begin to see certain things that you didn't see before. It was kind of one of those experiences. And then when all this stuff went down with Donna Brazile and the DNC in 2016, and she was fired from CNN and ABC, that pretty much was the end of me even, being able to digest anything that Roland Martin said. But we'll get to all of that for those of you who may have forgotten, because that was some years ago. So this is what's happened. Blogger Tasha K. She has made some highly controversial and unverified right now social media claims against journalist Roland Martin. She has posted several things on her official X account. The first thing she posted was that she had received still photos from a video that allegedly captured Roland Martin in a compromising position in a woman's home that is not the home of his wife. Allegedly, he was in a leopard G-string, and he was being what they call in the streets pegged. For those of you who don't know, pegged simply means a man who likes to take it in the back from a woman. A woman will put on a strap on and, engage in this type of play with men who, say they're heterosexual and they enjoy that type of activity. Okay? Now, she did make sure to say all of this was alleged. And she said that she had reached out to Roland Martin's team to see, what was the deal, blah, blah, blah. And according to her, his team got back to her and said, yes, the stills are true. However, Roland is currently being, blackmailed. And according to her, they also said any blogger who releases those stills from this alleged video, that his team is ready to take legal action against that person. Well, if you were with me a few days back, we talked about Lindsey Graham and some of the allegations that are now coming out from some of the male sex workers who were with him, and the allegation from them all all of them, were that he loved to dress up in women's lingerie and have various things happen. We also talked about Kristi Noem's husband, right, who loved to dress up in women's lingerie and, you know, put the big balloons in his shirt, you know, giving the impression of boobs and nipples, and he liked that type of play. We also talked about, remember, on that same episode, Madison Cawthorn, who also videos leaked of him in women's lingerie. I could go on and on and on. And I am sure before November of 2028, we are going to get more leaks of all types of people, men in particular, who've been living these secret lives, okay, who are married and not married, right? Gay and straight, or somewhere in between. And we're going to have to make decisions as the public. You know, are we going to separate a person's bedroom life from, you know, what they can and cannot do for their country, or if they are just a commentator like Roland Martin, are we going to continue listening, watching, you know, supporting, you know, whatever we may be doing? Those are the decisions that only the individual is going to have to make once information comes out, you know? So I will just say, as of right now, I would hope this is not true. But I also know, you know, having covered entertainment news now for 9 years, that sometimes, guys, this stuff is true. And it can be quite jarring because none of us deserve to know what a person is doing in his or her bedroom and with whom and how it's all going down. But the thing of it is when you're in a position like Roland Martin, when you're in a position like Lindsey Graham and all these other people, you are putting yourself at a huge risk. Now, I will say this for those of you who weren't following Tasha's post. Allegedly, what happened here is that he was allegedly having an affair with this lady. And unbeknownst to him, or it may turn out, you know, known to him, there were cameras in the room filming this particular activity that he allegedly was partaking in. Allegedly, you know, laying there enjoying. And so Tasha has said that on Monday, this coming Monday, she is going to release the whole story. That's going to be very interesting if you follow any kind of political commentary. It doesn't matter who the commentary comes from, because we all know that we are in some crazy times. I mean, look at Mitch McConnell, who most of us believe is dead, that he died the day that the ambulance was called to his home. Andy Brashear is demanding proof of life, and yet they're holding out. And we know, we talked about it, they're holding out to August 3rd. And we're going to have to see the sick, demonic game they continue to play. But I'm telling you guys, we're in treacherous times, and people who are covering politics, people who are out here who are politicians as well, if they aren't living what they claim to be living, if they've got a secret life going on, everybody is keeping receipts. And guess what? If folks don't do what folks want them to do, if they don't say what they want them to say, guess what? Photos, videos, etc. are going to be held over people's heads. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Those of us in the Christian circles, remember, we saw this very thing with Marcus Lamb and Joni Lamb, where he had had a 7-year affair. Now, he came out and acknowledged that this was an affair that he was having. Again, Roland right now, according to Tasha K., Roland's team is saying, yes, those are real photos, but he is being blackmailed right now. But we don't know. Roland himself, separate from what Tasha is saying, he has not come out and said anything at the time of this recording. You know, I will tell y'all, for those of you who have always wondered, if you weren't with me years ago when I covered Roland here and there, something that was going on, like Tiffany Cross's firing or whatever, or something else. And I always would say to you all that I just wasn't a fan of his, because for me, I began to see very clearly that people like Roland Martin, they really weren't concerned about us as black folks. And they weren't really doing anything to move us forward as a people. But what was happening is they were moving themselves forward. Nicer homes, nicer cars, more money. And it became clear to me that Roland Martin was more concerned, and this is my personal opinion of his public, statements and show that he has and all that he was more concerned with his own personal survival and climbing the ladder and being a consultant for the DNC than moving black folks forward. Basically, my opinion is that he's bought and paid for. Same opinion I had of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and some of the others who, we can give Roland credit for starting his own streaming TV show, digital show. But when you really look at it, what choice did he have? He wasn't hireable after certain things happened. And there were people, in the C-suite, they just weren't a fan of his style of interviewing, his style of commentary. And so, truth be told, if he was going to pay his bills, he didn't have a choice but to start his own thing. But for me, I'm going to be following the story. I pray, and I say that just colloquially. Of course, I use that term colloquially right now. I pray this stuff isn't true. And even if it is true, I don't want to envision that in my head, but I will say that this is going to, if this is true, I don't know what on earth he's going to say about it if he gets in a position where he's forced to address it. My hope for his, nieces and all that, a lot of Roland and his wife don't have any children, but they, took on nieces and nephews and things of that nature. I pray for them, if this is not true, that his team is able to come out and clearly debunk this. But if he is being blackmailed and whatever's going on, you know what? Whomever it is, seems like they are determined to get the message out about Roland. And here's the thing, I'm sure Roland Martin's team is aware of this, and I think all of us should be too. If this is true, if there are real still photos from a real video where Roland Martin is taking it in the back, okay? Whoever this person is, they didn't just send it to Tasha. They probably sent it to some of the major networks. And a lot of you know the major networks don't touch Roland Martin. Truth be told, I will say this. Very few people, very few black people too, actually even take anything Roland Martin says seriously. And I know that may be a surprise to those of you who watch him religiously. No, a lot of people have found out, a lot of people see Roland Martin for what he is, meaning he's really not concerned. You got to be able to say, if you're for black folks, what have you done that's quantifiable, okay? Not just out talking, guys. Anybody can do that. But what have you done? What has a person, a group, like the Congressional Black Caucus, we can go on and on. What has been done that we can quantify and say, this is what this person or this group did that literally moved the needle for us as black folks? Or have they just been getting rich off talking about racism and platforming people that talk about racism and, taking saying this, saying that, but selling their own merchandise, going from city to city to do tours to stir people up, but they don't give people any plan of real execution. And for me, that's where Roland Martin falls. And he's not the only one. It's several of them. Now, a lot of you heard me talk about in the past, if you weren't here, I'll review it again, that many years ago, I would tap in and out of Roland, and I did enjoy his commentary. But then as I began to grow myself as a person and so on and so forth, and really try to, get a good understanding of some of the things that go on, I think around this time I wasn't independent, because I used to be a Democrat, and then many years ago, I guess it's been 25 years ago, I became an independent. I voted for Democrats and Republicans. Whoever is for the issues I'm for, they get my vote. That's kind of where I am. And so I used to watch Roland from time to time. Then I began to realize, wait a minute, this dude, something's not right here. I think this is all him trying to get money for himself and get rich. I just got the taste in my mouth. This is another, Al Sharpton. This is another Jesse Jackson. This is another, we could fill in the blank with so many of them, right? And I began to kind of tap out more and more. And then the stuff happened in 2016 with Donna Brazile. And that's when, for me, even though no proof was ever really found, even though, he denied it, I was pretty solid in myself that a lot of the black commentators like Roland, who aren't really concerned about black folks, we're just the thing that they sell to make money for themselves. They all were hanging their hat on Hillary winning. And they were pushing her so hard because, they were going to all get jobs. They were going to be consultants. Tiffany Cross, Angela Wright, all of them. All of them were hanging their hat on that. And when she lost, a lot of folks' dreams went down the pipe, and they have not been able to resurrect that since. And so if they're not beating black folks over the head for not voting for Hillary and not doing this and not doing that, a lot of times we have to realize when people are trying to push us to vote for somebody, and they seem to be so passionate about it, they're not really passionate about it. They're passionate about the position and what they're going to get out of it. And, like I said, for a lot of black folks, Roland Martin is not influential whatsoever. He's a joke, to be very honest with you. A lot of people, Roland Martin is a joke. His constant meltdowns, him yelling and cursing, most people aren't going to take someone like that seriously. And when real serious conversations need to be had, that's the kind of person who's generally not invited to sit at the table. And I told you guys years ago, for me, he's bitter and angry about it. And it seems like anytime I'm doing a story and I go over there to research something he's done or said, it's hard for me to get through all the cursing and the yelling and the screaming, especially from a man. So for those of you who don't know what happened in 2016, I want to read something from Politico, okay? I'm just going to read it verbatim so I don't miss any of the facts, because this was a long time ago. I'm reading verbatim. It says here, a new email obtained by Politico is shedding more light on the mystery of whether and how interim DNC chair Donna Brazile might have obtained the text of a proposed question from a town hall between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in advance, and possibly shared it with the Clinton campaign. And now CNN, which co-hosted the town hall with cable network TV1, is pointing the finger at its media partner for what appears to be a breach of the traditional secrecy surrounding the questions for such events. The email obtained by Politico was written by town hall co-moderator Roland Martin on the day of the town hall to CNN producers. But it shows him using word for word the language of a question that Brazile appeared to have sent to the Clinton campaign one day earlier. That email from Brazile to the campaign was included in yesterday's release of hacked emails by WikiLeaks of Clinton campaign chair John Podesta. Then it goes on to talk about exactly what Donna Brazile's email said. Hillary's campaign responds to Donna. But then we get to the part more in detail about Roland. The next day, this is after Brazil sent the email to the Clinton campaign, and the Clinton campaign responded and told Brazil exactly how Clinton was going to answer this question. Politico says here, the next day, Roland Martin, a host on the TV1 cable network who was co-hosting the town hall with CNN's Jake Tapper, sent an email to CNN producers with 3 questions, the third of which dealt with the death penalty. That was the question, by the way, for those of you who don't know about this that happened all these years ago. The question was about the death penalty. Politico obtained that email, and here's the text of the third question. So basically, they've got that email there, and they say, the wording, spacing, capitalization are identical. At the town hall later on the same day, Roland Martin sent the question to CNN producers. Martin introduced an audience member who asked Clinton about the death penalty with similar language. Martin initially said in an interview on Tuesday that he did not share his questions with anybody, literally, not even his executive producer. However, in a follow-up interview on Tuesday, Martin said that he did send his questions to CNN via his producer and his TV1 team. In another follow-up email on Wednesday, upon being informed of the email Politico had obtained, Roland said he did not believe he had consulted with Brazil ahead of the town hall. And this is what he said to Politico. As far as consultation, I don't believe I did. I know I asked all of my social media followers for their input on what they wanted me to ask. And he goes on to make a bunch of excuses. Listen, we know whether we talk to somebody or not, y'all. We know whether we consulted with someone or not. Before Politico reached out to him and said, we have proof, we have some emails over here. You're saying you did not share your questions. You're saying you did not talk to Donna Brazil. You're saying you didn't share your questions with anybody, not even your, whatever. And then when he got that other email from Politico, all of a sudden he's like, I don't believe I consulted with. Guys, that's very sketchy language, isn't it? I don't believe that I consulted with Donna Brazil. So I think for me, that really just kind of confirmed what I had been coming to in myself for some years before that. That Roland Martin, y'all, all those people, they wanted jobs. They wanted jobs in the DNC. At that time, for those of you who don't know, Donna Brazil was the interim DNC chair, right? She had taken over from a scandal that happened with the lady before her. Now, Donna had made it clear that she was not trying to run to hold that position full time, but she was basically caretaking in that position until it was time for them to elect a new chair. And as a result of this whole question and all of that, she took the L. She was fired from ABC and CNN, and Donna's political commentating career hasn't been the same since 2016. But it seemed that Roland kind of got off scot-free. And one of the things that I have shared with you all that I've learned about life is that life gives us course corrections and opportunities to change and learn and grow, because that's what the earth experience is about. I really felt like back then that Roland kind of skated by on this because people didn't care enough about him and what he was trying to do to press the matter. But most people knew, they kind of came to their own conclusions about this situation and whether he actually gave that question to Donna or not. And of course, if he did, that's if with a big if, he didn't do it for free. We all know that, right? And so the bottom line is that, people who watch Roland Martin religiously and they feel that he's so intelligent and he's so well versed and he's so well read and he's such a great debater, I don't know. I don't know if they actually are seeing him for who he really is, or I should say his motives for what they really are. But as I get ready to let you go, this is going to be a very interesting story. Again, I started off the top railing off many men, okay, who have been exposed because we are in very treacherous political times. I was listening to a political historian who said in our history as a nation, in 250 years, we've never ever been at a time just like this before. And so people are trying to jump from sinking ships, y'all. People are trying to get on ships that are sailing. People are trying to take down their enemies. Everybody, like I said, is keeping receipts on everybody just in case, you know. And if it's true that Roland Martin has been cheating on his wife, if it's true that Roland Martin has been participating in these types of activities that have been filmed, especially if it can be proven that he consented to the filming, which may mean there are other videos out there. It may mean that he has a litany of people he's involved with that he, engages with this stuff with. If that's all true and it can be proven to be true, or if he has to come out and admit to something, it's going to be a huge embarrassment. That, to be honest, I just don't think, I can't see him being able to live it down. I can't see anyone really being able to look at him after and take him seriously. Because yes, we all know that what people do in their bedroom and whatever their sexual appetites are is no one's business, except when you're someone like these people in public office or people who talk grandiose shows and all these things. I don't know, But if even a smidge of this stuff proves to be true, and it can be determined that the still photos of him in a leopard leotard, not a leotard, a leopard G-string, which, if this stuff is true, if this girl is not lying, and y'all know Tasha has her own history, but if his team actually did confirm to her, and she's got that on audio or in an email that she plans to produce on Monday, and it can be verified that it actually was from his team, and that his team has verified this, guys, every news organization is about to go crazy with this. And that's why I'm saying, if it's true, and I hope for him and his nieces, his children, and all that, I hope it's not true, because there's no way that he can live this down. Not at his age, not at his stage of life. It's just not possible. He will be forced into, he'll be, basically not just ostracized, but forced into some sort of exile. Like, there's no way you are going to be able to show your face anywhere. So let's just hope, for the sake of the children, that y'all, when she comes on Monday, she's going to be able to say, we determined it was all a fake and a phony and all of that. And maybe she'll say, even I was lying. His team never said that those stills were true. And I know that's a big stretch, but I guess we're just holding out hope, for the sake of the children involved here, that such photos don't have to, and even a video don't have to float the internet. Because again, this is just one that he wouldn't be able to live down. What are your thoughts? Are you planning to watch this on Monday? Of course, if she puts it behind a paywall, there will be reporters and so on and so forth who will be watching her live stream that's behind the paywall. And they will be reporting on what she said. And that will be where I get my information. So guys, we'll be watching to see exactly what happens here. Will Roland Martin, or is Roland Martin about to be exposed? For the sake of his children, I hope not. But if he is, his name will just be added to the collection of names here recently of people that are being exposed for this behind the scenes activity that they have railed against and said all this kind of stuff against. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye, guys.